different ethnologists have classified human races differently. Of these, few most important are as follows. The very first attempt to identify the physical features of some human populations, racial classification is found in ancient Sanskrit literature. The dark complexion Nishads or Australoids were distinguished from the yellow colored Kiratas, that is Indo-Mongolites. These two were again different from the light colored Indo-Aryans. Dinakar's classification. In 1889, Dinakar proposed a classification and divided mankind into 21 races depending on hair form and nose form and skin color as secondary traits. This classification is classical and widely accepted scheme. The brief description of this classification is as woolly hair, broad nose. This group include Bushmen, Negrito, Negro Bantu, Melanesian Papuan. On the basis of their skin color, they may be further classified into yellow skinned. They are Stratopagus, short stature and dolichocephalic like Bushmen. Dark skinned, they may be further classified into three groups, that is reddish brown, and the traits are very short statured, subbrachycephalic or subdolichocephalic like Negrito, Negrilo, and black tall statured dolichocephalic like Negro Bantu. Brownish black, medium statured, dolichocephalic like Melanesian and Papuans. Second one, curly or woolly hair. This group include people with dark skin grouped into three categories: reddish brown with narrow nose and tall stature, dolichocephalic represented especially by Ethiopians. Chocolate brown, they are broad nose, medium stature and dolichocephalic represented by Australians. Brownish black, usually with broad or narrow nose, short stature, dolichocephalic like the Dravidians. In addition to these, another group with tawny white skin, narrow hooked nose with thick tip, brachycephalic represented by Assyroids are also included in this group. Wavy brown or black hair and dark eyes. This group of people includes Indo-Afghan having brown skin, black hair, narrow nose, which may be straight or convex, and usually they are tall statured and dolichocephalic. Another group of people have tawny white skin, black hair, again tall stature, elongated face represented by the Arab and Semite, Berber, Littoral European, Ibori, Insular and Western European and Adriatic. Coming to fourth one, fair, wavy or straight hair, light eyes, reddish white skin. This group of people includes Northern Europeans and Eastern Europeans. The fifth one, straight or wavy hair, dark black eyes. This group includes Ainu, Polynesians and Indonesians. Coming to sixth, straight hair. This group includes diversified people such as South Americans, North Americans, Central Americans, Patagonians, Eskimos, Lapps, Ugrians, Turks and Mongols. In 1931, American anthropologist E. A. Houghton has suggested a fourfold classification of composite races, which is the result of crossbreeding amongst the primary races. In 1947, however, he modified his classification. First, white, which usually included are European, Euro-African, Caucasoid. This group includes 6 primary and 2 composite subraces. The primary subraces include Mediterranean, Ainu, Celtic, Nordic, Alpine and East Baltic, while composite subraces include Armonide and Dinaric. Coming to second one, Negroid. This group includes African Negro, Nilotic Negro and Negrito, that is pygmies belonging to the primary subraces. Coming to third one, Mongolite. This group includes classic and arctic mongoloid, especially the Eskimoid, primary sub races. Composite races, this group further classified into 3 categories, predominantly white. This group includes Australian, Indo-Dravidian and Polynesians. Predominantly mongoloid, this group includes American Indian and Indonesian mongoloid or Indonesian Malay. Whereas predominantly negroid, this group includes Melanesian, Papuan or Oceanic negroids, Bushmen, Hottentot and Tasmanians. Houghton's classification has been criticized for the inclusion of Negrito or Pygmy racial classification element into the formation of Indo-Dravidians, Tasmanians, Bushman and Indonesians. Inclusion of archaic types like Tasmanian and Bushman as hybrid group and the origin of Dinaric and Armenoid subrace. In 1958, Boyd modified Wiener's classification and proposed 6 groups comprising 13 races, which are as European group, which has early European, Lapps, Northwest Europeans, Eastern and Central Europeans and Mediterraneans. Coming to African group, he divided into 6, the African races excluding inhabitants of North Africa, which belong to European group. Whereas the Asian group, it is divided into 7 and the Asian races divided into 8, which includes Indo-Dravidian. And fourth one, the American groups, they are divided into 9 like the American Indians, Pacific group, Indonesian race, Melanesian race and the Polynesian race. While the Australian group included Australian Aborigines. In 1951, Ashley Montagu proposed a classification which was accepted by many anthropologists. He used skin color, hair form and head form. He classified mankind into 3 main groups, that is Negroid, Mongoloid and Caucasoid. He further pointed out that another division which is larger than an ethnic group may be distinguished as Australoid, who is in fact archaic. The physical characteristics of the 3 major races are, the table here explains about the characters of various racial groups. Coming to Caucasoid, the skin color, it is light reddish white to olive brown, some are brown. Coming to Negroid, skin color brown to brown black, some are yellow brown. Racial group Mongoloid, the skin color, it is light yellow to light brown, some are reddish brown. Head hair, light blonde to dark brown in color, fine to medium in texture, straight to wavy in form, brown black in color, coarse in texture, curly to frizzly or woolly in form, brown to brown black in color, coarse in texture, straight in form. Head form, dolichocephalic to brachycephalic, height is medium to very high. Predominantly dolichocephalic, height is low to medium. Predominantly brachycephalic, height is medium. Body hair quantity moderate to profuse, slight, sparsely distributed. Face narrow to medium broad to narrow. Prognathism is very often present. Medium broad to very broad. Cheekbones are high and flat. Eye color is light blue to dark brown, brown to brown black, brown to dark brown. Mongoloid eye fold is very often present. Nose leptorhine to mesorhine, usually bridge is high. Platyrhine, usually bridge is low. Mesorhine to platyrhine, usually bridge is low to medium. Chin usually projecting, slight, medium. Lips very thin to medium, small aversion. Thick with much aversion, medium thickness with aversion of membranous, often heavy interaugmented lips. Stature medium to tall, very short to tall, medium to short. Blood group relatively high incidence of A2, relatively high incidence of A2 comparatively high incidence of B. High incidence of A1, very low frequency of A2. The definitions related to race strike a note of discord and there is no opinion expressed in them. Experiencing this difficulty, UNESCO organized a conference of all the prominent and eminent anthropologists, sociologists and psychologists in order to determine a single conception of race. The conference proposed the following recommendations related to race. Fundamentally, the entire human species has one origin and all men are Homo sapiens. National, religious, geographical, cultural and linguistic groups are entirely unconnected with and unrelated to race. These groups do not give indication of any race. Distinction can be made between different races on the basis of differences in physical features and not on the basis of cultural characteristics. The differences that exist between the physical characteristic of men are due to hereditary and to environment. Differences in heredity arise due to the processes known as mutation and inbreeding. Some race may claim of purity, but this is not true. Today pure races cannot be found anywhere in the world. The process of mixing of races originated long back. Human races can be classified, but these classifications are based solely on physical traits. They have no relation of any kind with mental or intellectual superiority or inferiority. The inner capacity for the development of mind and culture is found equally in every race. Hence, distinction between races cannot be based on cultural differences and levels of intelligence. That from the biological viewpoint, mixing of races in deleterious is an essentially incorrect and invalid belief. In this way, the race is a group of intermarrying individuals born to common ancestors that possess similar physical traits, and a we feeling inbreeding renders permanent these physical characteristics of the race, and due to them one race can be distinguished from another. One major cause of inbreeding is geographical isolation. Beside geographical isolation, a race originates due to mutation, migration, selection and adaptation. Racial classification is given to a group of individuals who share a certain number of anthropological traits which is necessary such that they are not confused with others. There are two aspects to distinguish people based on phenotypic and genotypic traits. Number one, phenotypic traits. Phenotypic traits are those physical characteristics of an individual which may be examined, and these are of two types: indefinite physical phenotypic traits and definite physical phenotypic traits. So, coming to the first one, indefinite physical phenotypic traits, those physical traits which are observable but immeasurable to any measurement are called indefinite physical traits, such as the color of the skin, hair and eyes. Hence, they can only be described. Following are some of the indefinite physical traits. Coming to skin color, from the very beginning anthropologists have used skin color as one of the most important distinguishing characteristic. Usually on the basis of skin color, people differentiate between the white, yellow and black races. Recently, spectrophotometry has been made as the basis of an objective and accurate measurement of the color of the living human skin. Of the skin, the following distinction are made. They are white skinned people or the leucoderms, for example, the Caucasians; yellow skinned people or the xanthoderms, example Mongolian; black skinned people or the melanoderms, example Negroes. Coming to hair, In racial classification, the characteristics of hair, that is hair form, hair color, hair texture and abundance have been most frequently observed. Besides, cross section and their whorls have also been used in certain studies. All these hair traits are well defined and classified by anthropologists. Coming to eye, the characteristics of the eye, particularly the eye opening, eye fold and eye color, have been utilized in distinguishing the racial groups. Coming to nose, nose is an integral part of the face and an independent entity whose attributes are comparable. Mainly, the descriptive elements of the nose may be observed and recorded in the following manner: nasal depression, none, shallow, medium, deep nasal bridge, straight, convex, concave, concave convex, nasal strip, sharp, medium, thick, bulbous, nasal septum, sloping upward, horizontal and sloping downward. Disposition of nares, high and narrow, medium, broad, broad and flaring. Coming to lips, in humans lips bind the oral fissure or the mouth opening. This trait is peculiar in men. It is generally observed that changing moods affect the position of the lips in 4 different ways: open and shut, forward and backward, up and down, tense and slack on the basis of the thickness of the lips. Anthropologists distinguished humans into 4 groups, that is thin, medium, thick and very thick lips. Face form. Human face has distinguishable characteristics which helps us to identify individuals. On the basis of conformation of the face, predominantly the hairline, the form of the jaw and the forehead, the form of the face may be determined. Poch has distinguished 10 facial types like the elliptical, oval, reversed oval, round, rectangular, quadratic, rhombic, trapezium, inverted trapezium and pentagonal. Coming to ears, ears are individually characteristics and have a number of racial classification peculiarities in ear forms. The external ear form may be classified into 6 types: macaqueous form, Ceropithecine form, Darwinian point, Darwinian tubercle, vestigial Darwinian tubercle and without Darwinian tubercle. The ear lobes are one of the most important feature of individual characteristic. The ear morphology varies on the basis of ear lobe. The ear lobe is much developed in European and Mongoloids. The attached ear lobe is more primitive feature than the free lobe. Coming to definite physical or phenotypic traits, definite physical traits are those which can be measured with the help of anthropological methods and instruments. In brief, the following are definite physical traits. Coming to stature, different races are distinguished on the basis of differences in stature. Martin has classified stature in the following manner: pygmies up to 129 centimeters, very short 130 to 149 centimeters, short 150 to 159.9 centimeters, below medium 160 to 163.9 centimeters, medium 164 to 166.9 centimeters, above medium 167 to 169 and tall we call it as 170 to 179, very tall it is 180 to 199 centimeters and giant it is 200 and above. Coming to head form, anthropologists have adopted a method for classifying the head form based on the ratio of the maximum breadth and the maximum length expressed as cephalic index. On the basis of cephalic index, head is classified into 3 classes, that is dolichocephalic, mesocephalic and brachycephalic. Coming to nose form, the nasal index is a good indicator to know the dimension of the nose. It is the proportion of the width of the nose to its length. Broca considered it as the best indicator in racial determination. Human population may be conveniently classified on the basis of nasal index as first one leptorhine up to 70.9, second one mesorhine from 71 to 84.9, camerine or platyrhine it is between 85 to 99.9 and ultracamerine it is 100 and above. Face form. The proper evaluation of the face form can be possible with the help of facial index. It is an indicator of the proportion of the facial length to its breadth. The human populations may be conveniently classified on the basis of facial index as first one hypereuroprospic up to 78.9, second one europrospic 79 to 83.9, third one mesoprospic 84 to 87.9 and fourth one leptoprospic 88 to 92.9. Coming to ear form, on the basis of ratio between ear length and ear breadth, the ears have been classified into long and narrow in Mongoloid, short and wide in Negroes. The majority belongs to the intermediate type. Few other biometric measurements are also applied in racial classification. The other definite traits, there are various anthropometric measurements which are used in racial classification like bizygomatic breadth, proportion of limbs, chest and thigh, circumference, etc. The genotypic traits, a new approach to classify human races is based on some genetic traits. The genotypic traits are first one blood groups. The blood groups A, B, O, Mn, Rh, Lutheran and KIT blood groups, Duffy blood group, P blood group and the ABH secretor status etc. are used in racial classification. There are a dozen blood group systems known to us, each inherited independently. Their frequencies vary in different populations all over the world. These are used as genetic markers. Dermatoglyphics. The dermatoglyphics traits are used in racial classification. Each dermatoglyphics trait is inherited independently or polymorphically. These traits are not modified by environmental factors. In fact, dermatoglyphics, that is derma means skin and glyphic is car. In this study where the rich patterns on the skin of the fingers, palms, toes and soles are considered. The dermatoglyphics trait include finger pattern types, pattern intensity index, pattern size, Palmer mainline formula, configurational area, thinner interdigital area and hypothinner area, second, third, fourth and interdigital areas, mainline index, Palmer and finger ridge counts and ATD angle etc. Coming to hemoglobin variants, the hemoglobin within the red cell also has its variation in different population of the world. The sickle cell hemoglobin or the hemoglobin S, hemoglobin C, hemoglobin D, hemoglobin E, glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase that is G6PD and haptoglobins transference may be used in racial classification. Some of the variants, the ability to taste phenylthiocarbamide, color blindness, sweat glands etc. are used for racial classification. Coming to DNA fingerprints, the proper evaluation of racial classification can be possible with the help of DNA fingerprinting. The genome of various populations may be used for such purpose. The basis of racial classification is various phenotypic traits like anthropometric measurements, somatoscopic observation etc. and genotypic traits like blood groups, dermatoglyphics as well as DNA fingerprints. The various ethnologists have classified human races differently and out of these Dinakar's classification, Hutton's classification, Kuhn, Gahn and Birdsell's classification, Ottenberg's classification Venner's classification, Boyd classification and Ashley-Montague classification are most important. The physical characteristic of these three major races, mainly the Caucasoid, Negroid and Mongoloid, vary in respect of skin, color, hair form, head form, face, eye, nose, lips, stature, blood group and dermatoglyphic features. The UNESCO statement on racial classification stated that fundamentally the entire human species has one origin and all men are Homo sapiens. The national groups, religious groups, geographical, cultural and linguistic groups are unrelated to race. The variation found to exist between the physical characteristic of men has both the features heredity and environment. In short, it may be stated that race is a group of intermarrying individuals who are born of common ancestors, possess similar characteristics and primarily heritable physical differences from other